and welcome back to
Inspired to Game. I'm Sean.
And I am Lola. Today we are talking about SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. This is a game for 1 to 4 players that we are excited to talk about today. Now, before we do so, we will give you a quick overview of how it plays.
In SETI, players search the universe for traces of alien life. A game of SETI is played in 5 rounds of indeterminate length. At the beginning of each round, players will receive an income of credits, energy, and cards based on their starting income and any cards they have tucked to gain their income benefit. On each of their turns, players will take one main action. This includes launching a probe, using a previously launched probe to orbit or land on a planet for various benefits. If you land on a planet, you will also receive a yellow life trace. Scan sectors of the sky to mark signals and gather data. If a sector has been completely scanned, the player who has contributed the most to that sector gets a pink alien trace. You can also analyze data for a blue life trace, spend publicity to research new technology, play a card for its main action benefit, and finally, with nothing else to do, a player will finally pass. In addition to your main action, there are also many free actions that you can employ. You can play a card to gain its free action benefit. You can spend energy to move a probe. You can exchange resources for other resources. You can input data into your computer for analysis in a later turn. Complete a mission on a card you've previously played. And finally, you can spend publicity to gain another card. The first player who passes in a round rotates the solar system. The solar system will also rotate when people research new technology. Once a life trace of each color has been assigned to one of the 2 alien species, that board is flipped, bringing new rules, new cards, and new opportunities. In each game, there are 2 alien species to be found out of 5 possible. At the end of the 5th round, players will add their current score to end game objectives as well as end mission points from their cards to find out who has the highest score and has been the most successful in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
So, art and components first off. Now, you can see this has amazing table presence for this game. It is absolutely gorgeous. The components are fantastic too. You have double layer player boards, you have really cool, interesting player pieces, and everybody loves those little lozenge-like data bits because they're so much fun.
One thing that I noticed, and it's not the way it's in the instructions, it's not the way you see anybody else talk about it, but the board is in 3 pieces. So you can actually situate that as an L instead of all the way down in a line. We didn't try it because our table's not that size, but you could do it if you wanted.
You could, yeah. I also really appreciate how the cards have flavor text on them. Now, this is really fascinating if you read through these cards. So each of the technology, it has information about it or whether it exists yet or not. And then even once you get into the alien species as well. And speaking about the alien species, they're all so cool. They aren't campy, they aren't out of this world strange. They're kind of realistic. It's kind of like you think how some of these things could potentially unfold. The artwork on the cards is gorgeous, and it brings this element of mystery and intrigue to the game.
I just want to say Oumuamua.
Oumuamua.
Especially Oumuamua, it's not an alien race per se, but Oumuamua is an extrasolar object that exists in reality, and this game has turned it into what if it is what people really were fantasizing about in the beginning, and what if it is this alien carrier kind of thing, and in this game it kind of is.
Now, theme. You can see theme is really, really clear here. It shines throughout the whole game. And what's really fun about it is fully integrated with everything you do. So whether you're doing the scanning action where you're looking up in the sky, scanning for signals, or you're crunching your data in your computer, or you're sending out probes to orbit or launch, everything that you do works so well thematically within the game.
Even moving a probe through the solar system, you encounter other planets, you encounter asteroid fields, you encounter comets, and that gets you publicity, as it would. Like, we just landed on Mars. Of course you're going to get publicity out of that.
And even how the solar system is moving. So nothing is stationary. That is obviously fairly realistic as well. And then you add to that the reveal of the aliens. Obviously a highly thematic aspect to the game. And because there's a certain amount of aliens and it's always random each game, you don't know which ones you're going to get or how they'll play together. Some of them seem a bit more stronger than others, so they all play a little bit differently, but it really adds to that theme, that surprise, by getting those life traces and revealing you have found something. So into gameplay, I find this game to be unique, fresh, and innovative. Now, one of my favorite aspects is the cards. The cards are so versatile. So they all have their action, their main action on them. But if you don't like the card for its main action or just want to use it for another purpose, it has multiple uses. So you can discard it to gain the resource in the top left corner, whether that's a data or a movement or a publicity, or you can tuck it for additional income. You can even give 2 cards up for one other resource when you're really in a bind, and that is so super helpful. Now, especially because there's a lot of luck with these cards. So there are some cards out there that seem very powerful and are really fantastic, especially when you get them at just the right time. And then others that just feel like, well, you know what? There's nothing in my game that I can really do with this. So instead of being saddled with a bunch of cards that aren't necessarily going to be that useful for your game, you can use them in other ways. So no matter what, they're a benefit to your game.
We didn't mention the top right corner is also for scanning. Your basic scan, you're going to be able to pull one out of the market, but if you get the technology, you can actually play one out of your hand. So again, you can start collecting those for the red, blue, or yellow scan, or black, sorry, scanned sectors.
The iconography that's on the boards are really, really clear. This is a really intuitive game to play. The player aid is masterful, is very well done, very easy to follow. So if you're not sure what to do on your turn, just look at that. Well, these are the choices of what actions you can do, and pick one and go. Now, I don't find this a very thinky game. Obviously, this is a solid medium weight Euro. Some could say medium to heavy. I tend to gear more towards right in the middle, because there is a good dose of luck here too with the cards and with how you play things. There are synergies, there is a lot to think of, and there are a lot of meaningful decisions, but it really balances out with the degree of luck that is here with the cards. It's a lot of don't overthink it, just play sort of thing. The resources are tight, as in any good Euro they tend to be, so you really need to plan out ahead at the start of each round how you're going to use every little last bit of resources that you have, and how through your actions you might gain some more to kind of squeeze more out of your turn each time, which is really satisfying and fun. And I don't mean that as not thinky at all. There is a ton to think about here. It's just that there's also a good amount of luck, both with how the board plays out and turns around you, as well as what cards you're happening to get and how they can work towards your strategy.
So you can think about your strategy and plan to use these things, the elements, the movement of the solar system and everything to your advantage, but you also have to have the agility for when that movement comes up that you didn't expect, or when that card gets played that you didn't expect, that you can still pivot and take it to your advantage.
And there too, you get then the aliens coming out, and that changes the game. So there's a time once they are unveiled that now you've got new rules. Well, now you've got new components to your rule sets. Now you have new opportunities to go for, and it varies based on the aliens. So that can dramatically shift what strategies you're working towards as well.
Now, we won't talk too much about the aliens themselves, because as the rulebook suggests, keep them a secret until you really need to know about them. It kind of brings more of the theme in and more of the enjoyment in.
Yeah, because that element of surprise for sure. Yeah. Until you've played them all. Now for 2-player considerations. Now we played this at 2-player. We also played it at 4-player as well. And it's very interesting because I've heard consensus out there that it's not a great two-player game, and that's not necessarily true. It actually plays really well at two-player. One of the advantages at the two-player count is you can predict more often when the solar system is going to move. At four-player, it's much more chaotic, and that can be hugely detrimental to your strategy if there's something that you're going for, but before your next turn comes, everything has moved and shifted, and now the planet that you needed to go to is super far and way out of your range to get to. But where this game does fall down a bit on the two-player is when it comes down to scanning. Now, scanning is an area majority element, minigame if you will, but with just two players, it doesn't play as well because there's no modification in the board for two players. It's not like there's that reversible side which has a smaller portion for two players to go at. It's the same whether you're four players or two players, which means you're not going to get a whole lot accomplished at the two-player count. And it means that very often we just didn't bother scanning, doing at least the scan action very often because it wasn't very lucrative. Whoever was doing that was actually probably the person who is going to come in with the lowest points at the end of the game.
Now, usually you would scan in part to get data for a blue life trace, but also to complete the area of that sector to get a pink life trace. But in a two-player game, there is an automa that will place life traces for the ones that you're missing so that you can get to the aliens faster. So if you don't get to a pink life trace, that's okay. The automa will take care of it for you.
Yeah, and it comes out actually fairly quickly. It's triggered based on where you are along the scoring board. So it isn't something that you need to come up with. And there are other ways to get data. So a lot of the times we would find that we would just be playing cards that let us do a scan action, but then give us a reward of extra additional victory points by doing so, or by being on that planet or whatnot. So yeah, it's not a strong element to the game for sure on the two-player game. Yeah. But that's the only thing that we felt didn't play as well at the two-player count. Otherwise, as I said, there is the advantage of having a bit more predictability, and it plays just fine. Replayability, having a variety of the different aliens that you can pull out, increases the replayability as you work through the different aliens, and it makes each game a little bit different because there's always two in a game, and which two you have will always make that latter half of the game slightly different in play.
And with the sheer number of cards, of course, with the luck of the draw, you're going to have different replayability. You're going to have different cards coming up in the market in each of your hands. There's the different end game scoring that are going to come up, the different missions that come up in your hand. So replayability wise, there's a lot of different luck elements that are mixing together to make every game a little bit different.
So for our final thoughts, I want to say that we had so much fun with SETI. It is innovative and fresh. There's so much going on. The theme is strong, and there's a lot of really unique elements to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of different strategies to explore. The iconography and everything is clear. It's a beautiful game to play and a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for watching our review today.
If you've enjoyed this content, please support our channel by subscribing.
And as always, happy gaming, folks.
In SETI's players will add up.
In SETI's players. Talking about SETI, search for
interesting terrestrial. In SETI, players will search the universe for traces of human life.
No.
Not human life? Guess what? We're here. Game over. Roll credits. Now, if I had said human intelligence, that would be way better. Okay. In SETI, players. Hi. Segue into scanning sachet back. Spend publicity. Publicity.
Iconography that's on all the boards, as well as it's pretty much the boards.
And finally, play a card for its main action benefit.
That's not the finally. The finally is to pass.
Okay. Damn it.
I'll probably cut this whole thing.
Yes, get it out. Get it out of your system. Let it go. Let it go. And blip, 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 blip.
Unless it feels to you like it's all the same.
That being said, each of those you can use the same
Different
3.
cat. I don't even necessarily say how many. 2 randomly assigned species, making each game play a little bit different.
With the pause and everything.
Yeah.
Play a little bit different. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I can't say it. I'm just repeating what you just said.
You could say I had a lot of fun with it too.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun too. Me too. Ditto. Each game will have 2 randomly assigned alien species. I forget what you said now. Other than a little bit different. More pause.
Loyal
More
to the
pause.
pause.
You can freeze me on there, making each game
A little bit different.
a little bit different.
All right. Oh,
You used to run SETI at home on your computer, now you can play SETI at home on your table.